And when we got home, the first thing that happened was that we got to start blacking out the windows. And this was before, really before anything happened.
Who told you to black out the windows?
I don't know. I wouldn't be able to tell you that because I just know it happened, you know. I was aware of things going on around me, but I wasn't. The next thing you get, of course, is that little box with a gas mask in it.
So every house got one?
Well, everybody got a gas mask, yeah.
So if you had 5 people in your house, how did you get your gas masks?
Oh, they were dished out to you.
They came to your house and give it to you?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think so. I don't think we had to collect them, I'm not sure.
So had their war been declared yet? When you were getting the gas masks, things like that?
I think it might have been. Yes, I think so. I mean, it was a Sunday morning after we'd been to church.
In 1930
Right.
is when England declared war.
Mm-hmm. Well, famous speech of Blinking, what's his name? I have to tell you now, no such agreement had been, you know, no such message had been sent or something to that effect that Hitler had decided not to bother.
That was a message had been sent. What?
I'm just trying to remember the wording that Chamberlain used. That we'd said, haven't we, that if you didn't withdraw from Czechoslovakia and Poland, that you know, all bets were off, as it were. You know, we needed to hear by such a time, and to announce that nothing had happened, you see.
So
we
move
were
out
at
of
war with
Czechoslovakia.
Germany.
So you were at war with Germany. When did the bombing start? Do you remember that?
Not immediately. In fact, right up until Christmas, 1940, and we were calling it a phony war because nothing happened, especially.
Were there troops sent to Germany or France or?
Well, they'd been sent to France at that time because, of course, come 1940, we were all back with Dunkirk. Yeah.
They were trying to defend at the Maginot Line, right?
I just went round it. But
so people were calling it a phony war?
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
Well, that it was make-believe. It wasn't really happening, you know?
Because nobody was dying yet. Because
well,
soldiers weren't coming back wounded?
Not especially, and of course, in spite of all this business of blackouts and sandbags around everything in sight, and that had been done earlier. That was done before war was declared. There were you know, air raid shelters were already being prepared. And they were digging up Hyde Park.
Did you see one?
In these books that we've got.
Did you see one? Where was your shelter?
Was our cellar, which they reinforced.
Really?
Yeah. If you had a cellar, which our house did, and the one next door, and you didn't have an Anderson shelter, which was that corrugated iron thing that you put in the garden, they would put another wall up
down in the
cellar,
basement, in the cellar,
and over your coal grate, they built a sort of shelter thing over it, so that it was protected. They
so who did this?
The local authority, presumably. And the other thing they did was.
And so you were 11 or 12?
Yeah.
What did you think was happening?
Oh, I knew what was happening. I mean, I was old enough to understand what was happening. I said you didn't quite know what was coming, even though in the First World War, Derby got bombed by Zeppelin, and the same street was bombed in the Second World War.
But you weren't alive then.
Oh no.
Right.
No, but my great grandmother was bombed out.
Wow.
In that First World War. I know that They lived in the street.
So when you hear the sirens, you went down to your cellar.
Mm-hmm. Complete with Cat, who was always down first. The other thing they did was to knock a hole between us and the next door house. They would conjoin.
Because they didn't have a cellar?
Oh, they had a cellar as well, but this was an escape route.
Okay.
You see, so you had this little square that you could clamber through, which oddly enough came in useful years and years later when my mum was in her house and heard the woman next door who lived on her own fall down the stairs. So the only way she could get into the house was through this little hole in the cellar, which she did. And she sort of was able to help her.
Interesting.
It's interesting that it came in useful, if only years later. Yeah.
Well, you know, you weren't invaded.
No, but of course it was always on the cards.
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely.
But more the south of England was more concerned about that than we were. We were much further north.
Right.
But our big thing, of course, was the fact that we had armaments factories plus Rolls-Royce, which weren't moved.
Right.
So they were all camouflaged, and that's why we had this confounded smoke screen around the town.
Right.
Which is why we're not all dead of lung cancer. I don't know, because, you know, this cloying smoke was all...
What was it from?
Where?
What was it from, the smoke? What kind of factory?
Not from a factory, it was from an oil drum which is outside your house.
Why?
Derby was built in a bit of a pit, so to put a smoke screen over the entire area was not a bad idea if you wanted to deflect attention, you see. Okay, so that meant that certain streets around the town all had these containers every few yards, and they were like if you think about half an oil drum with a chimney on the top of it and a lid.
Yep, got it.
And whenever there was an air raid warning, you'd hear these guys, I think they were in the Pioneer Corps, army guys anyway, would light these things, and you get all this smoke sort of billowing out.
So they would light them when they thought planes were coming overhead, and that was a way to camouflage.
Yeah.
They couldn't see what they were looking at.
No, hopefully.
But the bombers at that time, they bombed by coordinates. They didn't bomb by a site, or did they? I don't know.
I don't know. They did because
the smaller planes did.
yeah. Don't forget
So what was coming over there? Were they spit? What were the Germans flying? Do you remember?
Heinkel's.
Yeah.
Not
So these weren't big bombers; they were small bombers.
No, they were big ones. Dorniers.
So those would be.
Heinkel's.
I would think those would be done by longitude and latitude, etc. So
Well, they did because.
did that help, or did you know the smoke?
Well, we didn't know because nobody told you anything in those days, of course. But we had barrage balloons around us as well.
What are those? Say?
Those big wimpy things, you know, like your Goodyear
Yeah.
balloon. Well, that sort of thing. I know these were balloons that were looked after by the RAF, and there was one just up the road from us, and they were, you know, if it was very windy, they couldn't put them up because they got road balloons.
What role did they play? What were they doing?
They was deter low-flying aircraft.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Did that work?
Well, it seemed to, because they always had them. I think it did actually. It certainly fetched a few down if they tried to sort of dodge them.
So they only
went
put
up really high, you know. Yeah,
and were there ones in your neighborhood?
yeah, just up the road from us.
When they weren't inflated, where were they? Just laying there in front of your lawn, or what?
Yeah, they did deflate them occasionally. We had one in the school as well, in our school.
Right.
But they filled them with hydrogen,
Right.
and then they would they would get warning, and that's when they and then you knew something was going to happen if the balloon went up.
When you heard the siren, you had a cellar, but
Yeah.
if you were in school and you heard it, how fast between the time a bomb would come and the time you could get into the cellar or to shelter?
It's hard for me to say because a lot of the time the warnings we got were because bombers were overhead, but they weren't interested in us. They were going to Liverpool or Manchester.
For the
ports,
shipbuilding.
you see, the ship.
Yeah.
Yes, the shipping.
Right.
But they did try to go for Derby. Now this was the other thing. Radar. We had radar, which we weren't supposed to know about. There were these big masts on the east coast. I'd seen them before. And come the day that they decided, to have a go at Derby, like they'd done Coventry and so on. And this is apparently is a well-known. Now it can be told. It was years later. They had a tracking beam, these bombers, and they were able to deflect the beam from Derby. I think they moved it 15 miles to Nottingham. Nottingham.
A beam?
It is a tracking beam.
So it tracked
that the
airplanes,
bombers. Yes, the
bombers.
The bombers actually were following this track. Yeah.
Oh, they were following the track, or the track was following them?
No, it was something that they had themselves.
So okay, so you had the ability to track like their own GPS or their tracking system.
Right, yes.
Right.
And we
with
were
the
able
radar.
to deflect, yes.
And the radar was in Derby.
Well, it was somewhere. I don't know where, but they were able to sort of.
So you knew this when you were in it, or you learned this afterwards?
About 30 years later is the time we found that one out.
Wow.
I shouldn't really be here because.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, that's another level of protection.
We did get one or two stray bombers. Who
right.
came over.
But you were in the cellar. You ran to your cellar.
The day the guy who sort of low flew and bombed Rolls-Royce and knew he'd done it and machine gunned the streets and got back to Germany and bragged about it. No, he came in low cloud, nobody saw him.
Wow.
There was no warning.
Wow.
And I happened to just open the front door at that particular moment. This is terrible crash, you see. We're about, as the crow flies, I would think we were about 3 miles from Rolls-Royce and that particular bit.
So you opened the door and you heard the crash?
I heard it come down, yeah. Shut the door again
you
quick.
heard the bomb?
Yeah. I think at that point they sounded the siren. It was a bit late. We had...
well, if they strafe the streets, it's still better to be off. If they
absolutely, yeah.
spray bullets.
Yeah.
That low cloud cover, because that's the one thing that England has, is a lot of cloud.
Oh, yes. Yes, it did help at times.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Right.
We had some incendiary bombs dropped in just a quarter of a mile away from us, actually. They dropped on in the next street, and thankfully...
So during the war, you were turned 14, 15, 16?
Yes.
During the war?
Yes.
And when the war was over, you were 17?
When the war was over, I was 16. I just left
16.
school. It was 1943.
Right.
So there was another couple of years to go, which is why I had to do war work, you see. We were right in the middle of it still.
While you were doing the war work, you were still going to school though, right?
No. That's when I left school.
You left school
When I was 16.
When you were 16?
Yeah. One did.
And you were doing war work?
Oh, yes, you had to do something. You were expected.
But when you, in 16 years old, that was 1940?
43.
43, and the war was raging, basically. Right.
Oh, yes,
okay,
right.
I see.
Yes, I mean, it was a year before D-Day, that was.
A year before D-Day. That's right. Yeah, my mother told me because New Jersey was targeted by the U-boats.
Oh, yes, you would be. That's right. They got over there, didn't they?
Yeah, and Atlantic City was on the shore. Where she lived, it's right on the shore.
Yes.
Right. So they had blackouts.
Yes.
The East Coast had blackouts right after Pearl Harbor almost.
Oh, you would do.
They
Yes,
started
yes,
doing
yes.
it. Yeah. And the rations, you know, was started.
Yes.
And
Because those
they would send my mother to get the rations because my mother looked white because she was so light. Because they wouldn't, the black people didn't get as much as everybody else.
Oh no, really?
That's a surprise. This is America.
It's disgraceful.
I know it is disgraceful because, you know, in England you guys are very magnanimous and you believe in everybody gets the same amount.
Well, you remember what I told you
Right.
about this business of the white knight and the black knight in Derby?
Yeah.
You didn't go out into the town on the night when the black soldiers were out. They had
No, I didn't know that.
Oh yes, and if you did,
Uh-huh.
you'd see them being sort of hauled back into lorries to be taken back and
Back to where? To the base?
to the barracks, to base or wherever it was.
Yeah, they were petrified of a black man and white woman getting together and having a baby,
Oh yes.
which happened quite a bit. Even though they were
Did?
pulled
Oh,
back,
yes, I
the
knew
GIs managed to get in there.
I knew girls who went out with black Americans.
Right. Plus, they had stockings and they had candy and they had cigarettes,
Exactly.
and that's what they gave to people.
Which, of course, gave you, if you